This week I'm going to focus on two major stories plaguing Boeing. The first, the crisis with the 737 MAX series. As many of you may have heard, two 737 MAX 8s have crashed, one belonging to Ethiopian Airlines, the other to Indonesian carrier Lion Air. In total, close to 350 people have been killed. It has been determined that a fault in the MCAS system, which controls the pitch, the attitude of altitude or pitch of the aircraft on takeoff, was affected and was apparently being fed faulty data, which caused the plane to pitch violently up and down. It's also coming out that the pilots may not have had the proper training and even known about the system itself. A lot of issues have been plaguing this aircraft. I want to talk about one of the biggest, and that is why the FAA felt in its wisdom that Boeing should be able to certify the aircraft and not the FAA. For years, it's no secret that governments are always involved in the process of certifying products. After all, we want an independent observer, we want an unbiased opinion. So why would you allow a manufacturer to certify its own product, especially one that has potential to kill hundreds of people, if wrong? The answer, unfortunately, is not there. I have tried to reach the Federal Aviation Administration in Washington, D.C. only to get the runaround. Unfortunately, I have not been able to get an answer. I believe part of the problem is the fact that Boeing is so large that the FAA felt confident in allowing them to do this. When a company becomes this big, you need to watch them even more because they become arrogant, sometimes they overlook things, and sometimes in scrutiny to be competitive, they rush products into service, as is the case with the Boeing 737 MAX. The MAX is basically a new design of the ever-popular Boeing 737 jetliner. It encompasses new engines, scimitar winglets, and new technologies to compensate for these new engines. One of the new systems is called MCAS. What MCAS is a computer that gets its data from sensors built into the nose of the aircraft. The airplane is constantly interpreting data, and from this data will determine the pitch attitude of the aircraft on takeoff and in flight. The MCAS in this case, in both these cases, the sensors were feeding false data, and the pilots may not have even been aware that the data was corrupt and tried to overcompensate and correct the problem, and in the process, the planes crashed. One of the issues that has been addressed by the media is whether or not pilots had adequate training on the new MCAS system. It's very difficult to say because it's Boeing's responsibility as well as the FAA's responsibility to make sure that this is in fact the case. I am not saying that either of them failed. What I am saying is now that the United States Congress is getting involved and has announced that they will launch hearings into this very situation in the coming weeks. We already have the Senate, now Congress is involved. It does not look good for Boeing, unfortunately. If you are a buyer, this is the time of year that you clamor to Le Bourget, France, to the biggest air show in the world, the Paris Air Show. Le Bourget will be the determining point, in my opinion, for the future of Boeing's commercial aviation wing. This is where most of the orders are made. Most of the airlines send representatives to look at the aircraft, evaluate the aircraft, and watch them be test flown. One of these new airplanes that Boeing is now announcing is the 797. The 797 is an interesting idea. Basically, it would fit in between the 757 or 767 or possibly even the 757 and 787. There's really no finalized design for the aircraft other than the fact we know it's a twin-engine, narrow-body to medium wide-body aircraft. If successful, this could help Boeing in the long run. The other big story is the 777X. General Electric is unveiling a new engine called the GE9X. It is the largest jet engine in the world. Already there are reports that there have been issues with it which have delayed the taxi tests for the aircraft. Once the taxi tests are complete, usually the first flight isn't that far behind. Unfortunately, it's delays like this that don't give airlines confidence. Lastly, the reason the 737 MAX, I believe, was rushed was because American Airlines has been courting a possible order with rival Airbus for narrow-body A321s. Airbus has already announced that there is plans for an XLR model, or a super extended range. This would be the perfect replacement for Americans' aging 757 fleet, which consists of 34 aircraft, each of them with an average age of 19 years. They need to be replaced, and need to be replaced fairly quick. Sadly, the XLR won't be in production till at least 2022, 2023. So it's not like Boeing doesn't have time to come up with an alternative. In the end, it's up to the consumer as to what they believe. Ultimately, you need to decide for yourself, do you feel confident in your government's ability to police the industry effectively? Obviously, this plane was rushed. We, unfortunately, can never allow this to ever happen again. Lessons learned are lessons that are ultimately applied. In aviation, unfortunately, it's through crashes that we learn to better ourselves. It was a bold idea, I believe a good idea, but in the end, it was implemented poorly. I pray that Boeing learns from this, that the FAA learns from this, and that we all learn from this, and we make sure that these manufacturers get it right. We cannot afford to get it wrong. This is a product that, after all, has the potential to wipe out a large amount of lives. It's not like an automobile that crashes and only kills a couple. Airliners carry hundreds of people, in this case 200. We can't get this wrong. Lastly, I want to end on a positive note. I want to congratulate JetBlue Airways on their announcement that they will begin flights to Europe in 2021 with the A321XL. This is a bold move, as I've said in the past, and it shows that low-cost carriers can indeed fly to Europe like the big boys. Their product has always been a good one. I've flown JetBlue on numerous occasions. I've never had a problem. I believe they will be uber successful with this move. I wish them all the very best, and in 2 weeks or more, I will have a report for you on Le Bourget 2019, the Paris International Air Show. I will give you ideas as who ordered what and what could be coming to local airports. I will also have a big announcement to my Kiwi friends who love New Zealand. That's a hint of things to come. You've just been cleared for takeoff. Have an awesome week.
Great job, Rich Kaplan.